Welcome to Nuanced Beauty, because the world is nuanced and we think that's beautiful. Hi guys, welcome back to Nuanced Beauty.
Hey everybody.
I petitioned friends and family and folks who listen to the show to come up with episode ideas. And one of the episode ideas is super pertinent to all the things we are doing right now. And that is risk taking and starting a business.
Yeah, I'm not sure if folks who follow the Nuanced Beauty account are also following our H.O. Acres account, but being 3 months into owning a small business ourselves, we are now entering the business guru phase of our entrepreneurship. People ask me, Bill, how do you manage such a high stakes enterprise as microgreens? What is your secret to success? And I say, I just put my pants on one leg at a time, like everybody else, But once I do, I grow microgreens.
I feel the greatness.
So that's the disclaimer of, hey, we are 3 months into owning a small business, growing microgreens.
And we've been doing the podcast for 1.5 years, which is more my thing. But yeah, it's
one of those things that's made far more money than the other.
Exactly. And that's where it's kind of a challenging thing where priorities are shifting and things and such. But that's not the topic for today.
So we're going to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and risk taking, but this shouldn't be taken as advice from someone who knows what they're talking about.
That said, I feel like anybody listening to this show knows that we can BS with the best.
Yes.
Yes. And that's where our expertise lies.
People ask me, Bill, how do you BS with the best of them? And I said, hey, I just put my pants on.
Yeah. So
you can't see it, but I have like the Trump hands going here. They asked me, how are you so good at this?
So preface there, we're no experts, but that doesn't mean we don't have plenty to say like everybody else has plenty to say on every topic.
Of course. And we do have, friends who are further down the path of entrepreneurship than us. And we have other friends who are just starting out and
dreaming or not even, and then other friends who are like, nope, not for me.
Yeah. Or studiously planning. And we just think it's an interesting topic because we kind of watched how people approach starting a business.
Yeah.
And what came up in the question is like, well, how do you handle the risk? How do you handle taking these risks? And I think the two things that jump out to me are when I presented this. Do you want to get into the story of how this business came to be? Have you told that yet on here?
I don't think we did.
So I had a coworker who was going to start his own business growing microgreens.
This was January.
In January. And I had grown
April.
Microgreens just for ourselves in the past. I'd kind of stopped doing it because
we couldn't eat them all. And it was kind of like,
frankly, I wasn't having a ton of success growing them here.
In Seattle, you mean?
No, here. Like I had much better success in Seattle.
Right. You tried a couple. Yeah. When we moved here, you did once or twice. Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. I have some thoughts. But so I kind of had given up on it. So I'm like, hey, I have a bunch of microgreens equipment. Do you want it? It's just taking up space in my garage. And I brought that idea home to Christina. I said, hey, I'm going to take all those trays and give them to my friend at work. And she says, oh, No.
But then you shared more that they were they were considering doing a business. Like his wife wanted to do a side hustle, just selling to friends. Mm-hmm. Because that part matters in the story. It wasn't just you were going to gift it to them. It's like, Well, what are they going to be doing with it? Well, they're going to be doing a business. So then
Christina says, oh, you know what she ought to do? She ought to get in touch with this Facebook group, and she ought to talk to these people. She should go to this networking event. You know what? I'm going to take a look just real quick, see if there's a demand for this thing. And then she's furiously typing on her phone, and 10 minutes later, she's like, no, we're going to do this.
I did a brainstorming question to the masses, which wasn't a large mass, but
Blitzkrieg market research.
Okay. Yeah. Just asking like, hey, do you guys know anyone selling this around here? Would you enjoy them? What price do you think would be appropriate? And we found like there's not a lot of folks around here. I mean, in general, we know that like I think you can get broccoli and you can get a mixed variety of microgreens from a couple stores.
Yeah, don't name those stores. We want people to buy from us.
They're big stores and they're, again, like know your farmer, guys. Know your farmer. No, but we're not. I even feel kind of bad saying farmer because like,
we're gardeners.
We're gardeners. Yeah. But there's not many options out there, but those that do know, they're like, yeah, they're pretty good. Like they enjoy them. The nutritional density is part of the benefits. I am actually finding the more that I use them, I think they're easier. Like when we do orange chicken and rice, to not have to steam broccoli, but put a whole cup of broccoli microgreens with no prep.
Pitch here.
I am, but the point that I'm making is I'm like enjoying them because they're actually easier than what I feel. The more that we cook with them, and the more I'm like, yeah, this is an easy way to take in veggies.
Let's go into Nuanced Beauty confessional here.
Okay.
I really don't care for them.
I
have a passion for growing things.
Yeah, whatever you're growing.
Passion for just all things that grow.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing that grows.
It's a thing that grows, and I love watching it grow. I love that we have this thing in our living room. I just get to see how it develops day by day, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I don't really care for eating them.
That's for him, yeah. But I actually do enjoy them.
But following the wisdom of 90s hip-hop, the 10 crack commandments, we are not getting high on our own supply here.
There you go. Yeah, we're not eating all of our own supply. I'm definitely eating them. But there is a demand. People who enjoy them, there's a hype for it. So did some quick market research and like, all right, let's grow and sell these. Let's grow and sell these bad boys.
Yeah, and I said, okay, here's what we'll do. I still have some stuff. I still have some seeds. They're years old now. I'll plant one tray just to see if I can. Because, again, I hadn't had much success trying to grow here. Let's just see if I can. And then she sold those.
Yeah, I sold the tray that he grew. Like, I only sold one container out of that.
But that was just a test tray. And she's just like, okay, this business is now operational. We have customers, and you need to grow to satisfy our growing demand for these. And I'm like, I agreed to testing one. But
then we got four 10 by 20 trays, and then we got the seeds, and then we got the big shelf. So we did an initial investment of a couple $100.
3 or 4, and then there, because I was growing in our laundry room with this dinky little $20 light for just like that first iteration. And that's all I agreed to. And then it was,
we could do this. People want this, and I think we could do this. So let's get more professional.
If we're going to have an inspector come look at our operation, it probably shouldn't be in our laundry room.
Yeah, even though it's like it's a shelf, it's not like it's with laundry soap.
No, I did move the laundry soap to the other side.
Yeah, it was not near any chemicals. Yeah.
That said,
not the most professional.
She took me by the nose and led me just one half step at a time. Until we are now at a 12 tray operation. But and
we could be at 16 or 20, but it's probably 16. But yeah, we're at 12.
Let's start with the 12.
Okay, yeah, let's stick with the 12.
Had she presented to me that night, let's go drop $800 and buy all this equipment now, I would have said no. But she led me one half step at a time until we got here. And now I'm sitting here like, how the hell did we get here?
And so risk taking, right? So there's kind of like different levels of comfort here. And Bill and I, our proclivity is actually, we're pretty low risk.
Yeah, given the choice between doing something and not doing something, I will always pick
You're
not doing something.
You're super low risk. I have a little bit of a tolerance for risk if I see success and possibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's a tolerance for risk you have. It's a towering confidence that it's going to work out.
Yes. Okay, that's valid. Yeah. Because if I thought it was risky, I would like really back off. But because I see that there's possibility,
any
I
thought
don't see
in your
risk.
head that it wasn't going to succeed, you wouldn't do it. However, you don't have those thoughts.
Valid. Yeah, I don't even dance with risk. Okay, guys.
But we're also fortunate that it's actually, $800 is a pretty low cost to entry for a business in general. We had $800. At least we
didn't spend that much.
And we didn't. But over the course of those few weeks, we worked up to that. But the risk that we have is minimal because if this business goes out of business tomorrow, we didn't
take out a loan.
We don't have debt we have to pay off. We have a shelf, and it's a nice shelf.
Yeah, it's an industrial shelf that would go to the garage. Yeah.
But I used to be a huge fan of the film director Kevin Smith. And if you don't know who that is, he directed Clerks and all the Jay and Silent Bob movies. And I grew out of a level of the vulgar humor that he purveys, but at the time it was, and really 1994, the kind of independent film that Clerks was just so groundbreaking. It's not even a good film. It's just amazing for what it is,
Okay.
But in any case, his story that he tells is he was a cashier at this convenience store.
At the time,
telling everybody that he wanted to be a film director. And his sister said, I think it was his sister, said, stop telling people you want to be a film director. Say, I am a film director, and then go direct a film. So that's going into the whole manifesting thing. So what he did is he went out and maxed out every credit card he had, every credit card his parents had. He sold a bunch of his possessions, and with the $27,575 he was able to raise, he made the film Clerks.
Okay.
At night at the convenience store that he clerked
that he worked at. Yeah.
And that's why in the film there's a whole plot device about how the shades wouldn't open. That's written because he films it all at night, so it
needs to be closed.
Give a reason for it to be dark in there.
Okay.
And his attitude was, I'm either going to make this film, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life paying off this debt. Because for a convenience store clerk in 1994, $27,575 was an insurmountable amount of debt.
And did he talk at all about like he would regret if he never tried it to begin with? Because that's one of the things that some folks.
Yeah, other way around. Yeah, he would regret if he didn't try it. Like he was fully invested in the success of this thing, and he would rather work the rest of his life to pay off the failure than have never tried. We don't have that level of risk in our venture,
what we're doing. Yeah,
because
not at this point. No,
not at this point, because we've been able to, with that $5 at a time that we grew from those little trays up into the bigger trays, we've been able to cash flow every bit of this. So we aren't indebted to the business.
Yeah.
So in terms of risk, like there's an emotional risk.
Yeah, and that's the part that's kicking my butt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's the non-monetary, like your labor going into this.
The thinking.
The opportunity cost of anything else you could be doing, like napping.
Yeah.
Or
just being available to you guys more frequently, or like, yeah, it's definitely, it's a cost in my time. Mm-hmm. And that goes into it being a business that's in our home versus like a business you're going to.
And a business that, until we land some bigger fish, is largely our point of sale system is your text message.
Yeah. It's a messaging back and forth. And now we entered into our first market recently. So now we're into markets, but all of it falls on my shoulders and your shoulders. There's no outsourcing what we're doing here.
Yeah, we don't, and I am the sole employee of the business. I'm actually in a weird spot where I'm both the employee and the financier of the business. So you have to come to me for a business
finance
loan.
Requests.
Yeah,
if I can't cash flow it.
Like you're coming to me with business loan propositions, just like I do with my business owner saying, hey, we need money for this capital upgrade, and I have to sign off on that. But then I also am the employee who has to execute on it.
Right.
So I have two hats. I have a top hat and a monocle that I wear when I'm being financier Bill, and then I have like a
gardener Bill.
Yeah, I have like a straw hat that I wear when I swap over. I have some overalls and everything. But yeah, so in terms of risk, it's really more emotional risk for us, and it's just feeling silly being at the market, not making any sales, which didn't happen. We actually did.
We landed in the black.
We made more than we lost, which is a win.
Yeah,
it's a question
and
of
a lot of good conversations. Like that's where, like for me, like that's the emotional toil. Is I had hoped to sell everything. I wanted to sell everything. So when I finished at the market, I was in a very negative headspace because I didn't sell everything. And I could only see like the number of containers that I had left and what was I going to do with these, because I am so like, I don't like to waste food, and this is food that we're growing. So now we have a course of action moving forward with how we're going to handle that.
Because in your mind, you equated those containers to the dollar values that they're worth. So if we had 50 containers left, which we did, to you, that's throwing away $250.
Yeah.
And it's not, because they didn't sell. So that's not worth that. It doesn't have a value until money changes hands.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's unrealized gains. But it still feels like throwing out $250.
Yeah, and so then the mental energy, because I'm not okay wasting food, like potentially like either I need to gift these or we need to freeze these, dehydrate these, which that's what we're actually probably going to do with all of our future unrealized gains.
Yeah. It's good. I told you, business guru right here.
Unrealized gains. But and then I ran samples. Like I created a cover letter and I printed out our like Department of Ag license, and I ran samples to places within a 5-mile radius of us, hoping to get some wholesale distributors and some get our microgreens on somebody's menu.
You want to talk a little bit about putting carts before horses here. Like, we don't have a business card. We don't have a website. One of the people she spoke to said, "Oh, there's this other competitor in the market. Do you know about them?" And we looked them up, like, wow, they have like a professional website. Maybe we should
they have a website. We don't even have a website.
It's a beautiful website.
Oh my gosh! So then you're like, wait, maybe we're not professional. Imposter syndrome.
Before I had my first greens in the tray.
I knew you grew them before. I knew that we could grow greens.
I did not know we could grow them.
So he did, yeah.
She went to a shop and said, "Hey, we're a local purveyor of microgreens, interested in selling our wares in your shop." And I'm like, "We're none of those things."
I did not say it like that, but that's how you heard it.
Like, we're none of those
things.
No,
I said, how would I get my product into your store?
How can I best support your business with my greens?
How would I get my product into your store? We don't have a product.
We didn't have a product.
We were going to have a product.
So this is where we deviated we are not small business owners. Christina is a small business owner, because now we can call ourselves a woman-owned business. But that's how we differ as small business owners from some of our friends who also have businesses where they've yet to sell a product, and they're spending months or even years in the planning phase of the product or of their project.
Yeah, we were kind of like thinking, and there's kind of a couple ways that you could end up based on your risk comfort. You could end up in a spot where it's just like still a theory and it's all a thought in your mind and no prototype on hand. Or depending, because if you're doing a service or like a product, right, there's also the possibility that you are more so service or like less tangible product, and you're going to invest lots of money in all of the things. Like, for example, a podcast, invest all the money in the right equipment, getting the right editing program, but having never actually just put a podcast, like hit the publish and let it be out there. And so there's kind of a varying approach that I think your tolerance to risk is going to impact your course of action.
Yeah. Are you okay putting out a bad product?
Yeah.
Is the question.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Are you okay putting out a bad product? And I would say yes when it comes to a podcast. I would say no when it comes to microgreens, because I think it's a good product.
Right. But our labels, when we first looked at them, didn't look as good as they do now.
Yes.
Things like that.
Are you okay? How about not bad, but are you okay putting out a not perfect product?
Right. Or going back to the podcast, we started, and you bought like the cheapest microphone on Amazon.
Yeah.
And you were in your closet trying to speak to it, or like when you brought me on, we were
in the closet chatting on
around,
one mic. Yep.
Which is why in those early episodes, I sound a lot quieter because I'm taller than Christina, so I'm further away from the mic. And then we bought slightly better microphones but if you go earlier, the product isn't as good in those early episodes, but we didn't know if it was going to be good.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
We didn't know what we didn't know, and you won't know until you start doing it.
Yeah. There's a level of doing that just has to happen.
Now, if you read Agile Business for Dummies, which I haven't, but we have a copy of it.
Yeah, we both know basic PMP principles. I did a lot of coursework, but I never got the certification.
I watched a couple videos because everyone kept talking about it, and I wanted to know what it was.
Oh, you did the LinkedIn Agile Learning.
LinkedIn Learning, yeah. And they talk about this concept of a minimum viable product.
Yeah.
Where you don't wait until the product's done, because you really don't know what problem you're trying to solve. You just build something.
Yeah.
And then you get feedback on that something.
And then you tweak it.
And it might go in a different direction than what you thought to begin with. But you would never know that unless you put something out into the world.
And I mean, isn't that the same? Like, it's the same for somebody writing a book. I don't think somebody sits down with a fully fleshed out idea of how this book is going to turn out. I mean, some have a pretty high generalized idea.
J.R.R. Tolkien wrote an entire Elvish language before he put the page on.
Did he? Okay.
I mean,
but did Harry Potter, like Harry Potter? She didn't. She didn't have that all thought out.
It's fairly evident if you read it enough times.
Yeah, you could see where there was incongruent or like lost storylines
for sure.
But yeah,
I used to, when I was in high school and I had to write persuasive essays for English class, I would start writing before I had a take on the topic and figure it out by the end.
That sounds like you too, though. Yeah.
Well, if they were exceptional. But I had no idea what my opinion was on the topic until I started writing, which is a whole nother, personal development exercise about just putting pen to paper, because you might not know what you think until you start.
So least viable product.
Yeah, minimum viable product. And that's a little bit what we did here. The minimum viable product was growing one 10 by 10 tray in our laundry room. And it wasn't until we grew that and saw what it was, how many
How many containers?
Containers come out of a tray. Like how quickly do they actually grow? 7 to 10 days is actually a pretty wide window when you're trying to hit a, because that was my thing. I want to grow for a couple of months just to figure out
the growing cycle,
the predictability of the growing cycle. What day do I have to start in order for the product to be done on this other day? And we figured that out, but it was a little bit. This is why it's nice that we're selling like to friends and family a little bit, because of its.
We've gotten the feedback on how long shelf life.
Yeah, I know. People kept asking us, "What's the shelf life?" I don't know.
And we would say like 5 to 7 is what we would guess, and then we like heard back like, yeah, it's a week, and actually like for some it's like more than a week. It's like a week and a couple days.
It largely depends on.
There's a little bit of moisture, if the amount of moisture in
well,
there. But
it depends on if we're. If they go into a cooler for any period of time, it dramatically shortens the shelf life, I think.
Dramatically. That's a big word to use.
It's maybe too big of a word.
Yeah.
But it does shorten the shelf life, because the cooler, as cool as we can get it, is not as cool as a refrigerator.
Yeah.
And it's not as dry as a refrigerator.
And the dryness.
The dryness is really the thing.
Yes.
And we're working on that. We didn't know that until we did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we bought, Christina wants to buy a mini fridge to put on our front step for porch pickups.
Yeah. And I got to cash flow that, guys. So if you're listening and you buy our product, keep buying them so I can cash flow that.
And it's going to increase our shelf life if
by
we do.
a couple days, probably.
By a couple days, probably. So all this is to say, I think there's more risk in not doing than doing, because if you don't start, then you don't have any of this feedback, and I think you're more likely to fail at your endeavor.
Because you're just kind of caught spinning in the thought part,
and
maybe.
Yeah, well, it's not that you're caught in the thought part. It's that if you ever do get around to starting, which a lot of folks don't, they just carry an idea with them for forever and never get started on it. You have invested so much time, and that time has a value to it, and so you're starting in a huge hole already.
Okay.
So you're losing profit.
Like your mental energy was a time sink, and it potentially created a lot of assumptions and a lot of controls that may need adjusting, and may not be a good control, because it's not an experience that you came up with that, that level of what you think it's going to be.
I saw a reel on this the other day, and it's slightly on a tangent, but he was talking about this guy owned a plumbing business, and he thought in the beginning that if he bought the cheapest tools and didn't wear like the polo with his logo on it, he'd be able to offer cheaper prices. And he could, but he also made less money, and then he went out of business. So there was a level of investing in his own professionalism and doing the thing. So that's kind of the other side of it, where he tried to do everything very minimally, but then he also didn't make any money, and the business went out of business.
So there's a counterbalance to just jumping in and doing it.
You do need, pretty agile iterations of what you're doing. You need to grow.
Yeah.
Or else you're just going to wither on the vine. If we were still growing out of our laundry room, we wouldn't be making the sales we are.
Right. Like we did have to, we had to change our operation. We had to evolve the operation. And I think maybe for that very reason, that contrast you just brought out is one of the reasons for the other extreme of why someone doesn't get started, because they haven't decided what level of investment is the right level to go. And
what is that minimum viable product?
Yeah.
What's the minimum?
Yeah. It's just like, oh, but I don't want to fail. And then, I don't know, maybe you are going to fail. But again, is it worth the regret to not even get started?
Yeah. I think we're speaking from a luxury of having a low cost to entry business.
For sure.
And I asked earlier about, are you willing to put out a bad product? I think the fear is that if you do, you're going to lose any client base that you have. But there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people.
Right.
So if one person kind of gets a not great experience because you're learning, especially if you approach it with some level of humility, there's other customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you can't let that fear of failure keep you from
win
starting.
Everybody.
You're not going to win everybody. And this has been a super cool learning experience. And if all we get out of it is I got to grow some cool stuff, because I can.
Yeah, now we're growing a different variety because it's really bright pink. If it works,
it's not going well.
The germination is hard for these seeds, but anyways, we're figuring it out.
Yeah, and we made a couple of bucks. We got to buy ourselves some coffee. That's worthwhile. It's worthwhile for us. I guess what I'm getting at is the finding your why in it all. You know, why are we trying to be Northeast Florida's foremost supplier of microgreens?
Nope.
No, we're not. If we can cover our grocery budget for the month, that'd be a huge win.
Yeah, if we can supplement our income, that would be a huge win. And the why is like, yeah, it's not because we're trying to be uber successful in the business. It's because we like to grow stuff. We like to eat stuff. We see a market that has a missing component of something that we know is popular elsewhere.
We have a passion for locally grown, high quality, nutritious food.
Yeah. And this is like kind of an outpouring of that's purpose. And it's cool that it's a business endeavor. So that's like, yeah, having our why, that's our why. And that having that why really well defined helps you deal with whatever level of risk you're willing to undertake. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and in the spirit of nuance, I hope you found something that you could agree with and you could disagree with, and still choose to lean in. Give us a follow, rating, and review, and consider sharing this episode with a friend to continue the dialogue and help us grow. Until next time.